about to see some animals.
Can you do me a favor?
Just watch.
Can you raise your...
He's talking.
Somebody give me a...
Alright, here we go.
So basically we go around different places, meet different people, and teach different people from different places about different creatures from different places.
Alright,
So
here we go.
you got a better appreciation for some of the things. So at least do not like
Alright,
stamps
this
themselves.
is a baby hamster.
Builds up crisscross, and if you try to eat one...
This is a baby hamster. He's very sharp.
But actually, they don't see very well, so probably when they look up...
That was a baby hamster.
Giants here.
And that's a baby hamster.
A lot of times you just look at me and get
I forgot.
good at it. A lot of times they have kind of smaller eyeballs. You can usually venture pretty good guesses to they do not see very well. Usually the opposite is also very true. So if they got big eyes, you can usually guess that they've got pretty good vision. Now if you look at his little eyeballs, they're pretty small. We don't see very far. Or very clearly. So you'll notice at the end of his face there is something else, which is also a clue about this guy. It's his little nose. So you probably notice he's going around that nose is going 100 miles a minute. So they're always smelling everything all the time. Amazing sense of smell. Best way to figure out what's going on around living, dangerous, living, tasty, all that kind of stuff. But they also use that nose to protect themselves. Kind of a weird, sort of a roundabout way. It's this thing called.
Sorry, that wasn't a hedgehog. Sorry, that wasn't.
Either way, they take that smell.
Sorry,
And rub it on one side of the body.
hamster. It was a hedgehog.
Rub it up over here, guys. Now all they're trying to do though is take this other smell and put it on themselves. They do not smell very much like a hedgehog anymore. And that way, something sticking around for a tasty little hedgehog to eat. It's going to be hard to smell.
Look at that, he's walking.
It's a pretty neat trick. Are you guys familiar with Sonic the Hedgehog? Don't recognize there so fast. Here we go.
Whoa,
Did you
Sonic.
just ran out of the room?
Okay, he's a bit too fast.
Actually, they do a lot of walking. So they're nocturnal. They sleep basically all day. And they're up all night, walking, sniffing, all the while trying to find stuff to eat. Sometimes they have to travel quite a ways to satisfy their appetite. So a lot of walking. But they actually end up eating basically anything and everything. If it's tasty, they'll eat it. It's called being an opportunistic omnivore. So essentially, though, they end up eating a lot of things they happen to find, right? Dead animals, bugs, and fruits and stuff like that. Yes. Any questions? I go on for a long time. It's only the first animal, guys. Still not clicking here. All right. Clap your hands for that thing. All right. Here comes a much softer friend. Very soft. Smells worse.
Alright, he just got put back.
You might have noticed when you walked into the room here that you might have smelled something weird.
Alright, here we go.
There's also this thing, and actually a couple other things that are really smelly. So this is Maggie. They have a lot of names that they go by. I prefer to call them weasels. Now sometimes when I call one of these guys,
It looks like a raccoon.
confused because you're probably thinking, wait. I thought that was called.
But they're
A
weasels.
ferret. You're correct. I was called a ferret. So there's these things called common names, right? So every animal has a scientific name, one scientific name for each species. Then everyone also has usually more than one common name. And these
Remember,
guys have at least
the
7
raccoons.
common names. But a good example of an animal that has a bunch of different common names that you probably
Alright, we're next to pet 'em.
Yeah. So in the United States, 3 cats.
We're next.
Actually, in North America, that's the bobcat, the lynx,
To
the
pet 'em.
mountain lion. But you see a mountain lion, you call that thing a mountain lion, or a cougar, or a puma. Still talking about the same cat. There's a combination, same kitty cat. And these guys
Alright,
have
here he
7
is.
at least. There's probably more that I just don't know. But they're called weasels, ferrets, martins, urbans, long cats, polecats. Are they really a type of cat though? No, it's just a name. I'm also called a stoat. 7. And just pick your favorite one.
Alright,
If you
we're
pick
next.
your favorite one, I like the weasel. That's my favorite one. I just like the way it feels coming out of your mouth. But yeah, they're basically everywhere. These guys. We don't see them very often for a couple of reasons. And actually, one of them is evidenced by looking at them once again. Or you get clues, or you just look
I
at
think
stuff.
that was a-
Shape of a lot of animals can
I
take
think
quite a
that
bit.
was a
And as
baby.
she's coming around with little Maggie here, you will notice she has a very interesting shape to her. Most people do not know what to refer
Alright,
to. She
let's
has-
wait
I
for
call
the
it
next one.
noodle.
He's stressed. He just wrung out his claws. Oh guys, if you can hear me, please turn up your volume. But if you are listening, please like and subscribe. Thank you.
You and I say.
This is a animal show.
They go back to bed. They're basically
Okay.
just laying around or sleeping.
Forgot to tell you that.
And they go back.
Here it comes. He's back around.
I want to see a skunk. Yes, you do. Here we go. I'm gonna have you clap your hands to that little weasel.
There he
Yes, sir. Okay, so here comes a skunk. So this one
there it
is
goes.
just a little
Oh, yikes,
preparation.
a skunk.
We're about to bring the striped skunk. Her name is Blossom. All right, and she is
no.
the species of skunk you're very likely to see basically anywhere in the United States. I probably don't need to tell you they have a unique way of protecting themselves. They have these things in their butt that kind of squeeze up to spray this nasty smelling fluid. They're very
That hand sanitizer kind of burnt.
No sudden movements, okay? Everybody say, okay. Right now, if you are sprayed, you can always come prepared. So you probably saw our bus just outside, okay? Little bus sitting right there. We knew we had to bring a skunk around today, so we also brought in the bus a small pool. And it's full of tomato juice. So if you guys are sprayed, the kids, we can probably chuck them maybe 2 at a time. Here we go. Just kidding. What is she doing? Oh, she's wrapped around your ring?
Wow.
Oh, goodness gracious.
This is a skunk.
Look at
It's a
that.
skunk.
Oh, yeah, she's like,
It's gonna be yucky.
there we go.
Hope it doesn't explode on me.
She's actually very friendly.
There it is. Can you see it?
Looks very cuddly. She is
It's right
actually
there.
very cuddly. But do not cuddle a skunk. I don't recommend it. But usually when I ask people, hey, you guys want to see a skunk? Pretty much everybody says,
There it
no.
is.
No, don't see. Maybe just talk about the skunk they tell me. But the thing is, you don't want to get sprayed. Weirdly,
so
though, they cannot
cute.
spray you. But I found doing these shows, if you go around and tell people that skunks don't want to spray it, people disagree.
So
And I think it's because, if you have a story about a skunk, usually most get sprayed, right? So you go around and say they don't want to spray it, and you're like, what are you talking about? That's like the only thing I ever hear about, right? But no, they do not want to spray it. Usually when we meet a skunk, everything kind of goes wrong. Everything goes kind of wrong.
So
but
good
usually
so
if they
far.
can, they're just going to try and tell you to go away. Like most animals, they don't want any trouble with you. They'll try and get you to leave. You hear some rustling in the bushes, and you see that familiar kind of white thing in the bushes. Are you going to run over there and give it a hug? No.
Maybe.
You see that thing and you're like, that's a skunk. I'm gonna maybe go inside for a little while. So, that's the idea. They want you to see them so that you just avoid them altogether. A lot of animals use a variation of this to try and advertise themselves to you so you leave them alone. You guys ever heard of a poison dart frog? Poison dart frog. A little bit different, right? Similar but different. So there are a lot of really toxic animals advertise that to you by being really vibrant and polluted, right? So you're like, that's a thing that's probably going to kill me, and you don't try to eat it. Same thing. Now there's a word for this, posematic coloration. And I was not joking about all those science words, guys, but again, they just want you to know stuff. Now, there's going to be 3 things they're going to do on purpose to get you to go away. And they're designed to scare you away. Actually, almost every animal in the world has some variation of these. Usually we call them threat displays. If you see, for example, a cat has a very commonly known threat display. They get angry, it will take its attention. Dogs getting angry, they get a parallel teeth.
Alright, now they're talking about
And these
dogs.
guys, 3 things, once again. They are supposed to be
think a
scary.
dog
I think
is
they're all
next.
pretty cute. One of them is a little bit scary.
knows?
One of them is just really weird.
mean, it's an
and the
animal
first one
show.
though, is just that they take these little things and they stop their feet on the ground.
No.
And they're very
I
tiny.
think it's
Tiny
a
little feet. They're so cute. But it's also
groundhog.
terrifying because they
Yeah,
run
I
at
think
you.
so.
You're like, oh,
I
God,
don't
it's
know
so
what
cute.
it's
Now the
called.
third thing is kind of weird.
It digs
Have you guys ever
itself
heard of a
into the
skunk doing a
ground.
handstand?
Here, just listen. I'm being
Is it true?
annoying.
It is true. They will do a handstand. Aren't you guys afraid of a handstand? Like, I'm afraid to do one. That's different because I'll hurt myself. But it is, the thing is, the handstand is not particularly frightening either. But those are the 3 weird things that do try to get you away. And I tell people, if you don't want to get sprayed, some things you do try to reduce your chance of getting sprayed. I think probably the most important one is just don't freak out. They don't see very well. If you look at her eyes, I like to be able to show you Blossom in particular. Her sister is all black and white, and it's very hard to see her eyes. They blend in very well with the rest of her fur. But on her, they're pretty easy to spot. They're pretty small. They don't see very well at all, but they have a really big nose, good sense of smell, tiny little ears. A lot of times they have no idea you're around until you're right up on them. A lot of times, if skunk gets a little too close, you freak out. You scream, you scare them, and again, they kind of skip the nicer things and boom, spray you right away, and then nobody's happy. So most important thing is just don't freak out. Maybe start to slowly turn move the other way. Also, never miss. Just say hello to the skunk. Now, do you think they know what you're saying? No, that's insane. The thing is, you just want them to hear that you're there in a way that's not terrifying. And of course, saying hello is not particularly terrifying for most creatures. But that's the gist of it. Now, the reason they don't want to spray you though is because they can't spray you forever. They only do it like 10 times. Okay? 10 times, and when they got 2 whole days, they gotta take off to reload. That's a long time to be vulnerable, even if you're tough with a skunk. And they're tough. Don't mess with the skunk. Any questions about her? Oh, she's so cute. Love this skunk. All right, clap your hands to that skunk. All right. My turn. I'm surprised he's been quiet. Come over here. This guy, he was obnoxiously loud before we started the show. His name is Flapjack. Please call him Flap Baby. So there's another one you can't pet because if you try to pet him, he will pet you back with his mouth. Very hard. Something personal. He's a little parrot. He's called a Quaker parrot or a monk's parrot. Now they call him a monk's parrot with his little gray patchy feathers on top of his head. Somebody thought it looks like a monk's cap, so they call him the monk's parrot. They call him a Quaker parrot though for this thing they do in the league setting. Shakes their head like they're in an earthquake. But yeah, he is actually all grown up. A lot of people think that he's a baby. He is all grown up though. So there's actually parrots that are even smaller than this guy, full size, little tiny parrot that's itty bitty guys. But across the board, they all bite really hard, and I don't recommend ever. We're trying to grab one, especially like if you don't know a parrot. Oh my lord, they will come at you guys. But usually like if you go out in the wild, these guys are like you can find these guys in South America, but also in Chicago. Actually, you can find them in Chicago, in parts of Chicago. Usually they're green. He's got a blue, the fancy little guy. But you don't have to worry about them like flying out of trees and like trying to bite you in the face, right? Instead, they're just gonna use their handy wonders to keep their distance from you. So you don't have much to worry about. Sometimes we're gonna get these guys in a zoo where people have parrots as pets. Maybe they can't fly away, right? Instead, they kind of act like a dragon, draw that head, wings out, right display his bite you in the face. That's nothing personal though. It's just that they don't want anything to do with you. They tend to take a very long time to get to know. They also live a very long time. So he's only about, 11? Is he 10 or 11 years old now? But these guys look like 50 or 60 years. 50 or 60 years. I forgot you guys were over here. Come over here. So. Little bird. Oh my. Say hi, bud. Hello, bud. Who's this crazy person? That's what everybody says now. Now, yeah, they live a long time. Even smaller parrots. Like these little parrots, they can still push like 30 or 40 years. Really big ones, they can live even longer, like 70 or 80 years. You guys ever heard of a macaw? Cockatoo perhaps.
Very cute.
Yeah. Usually something comes up when I do these shows, and I usually like to talk about it anyway, but it is whether or not some of these things make good sense, because often by the end of the show, a lot of kids scurry over, a lot of weird stuff to live with them. So, before I tell you anything else about this guy, I would like to ask you, do you think they make good pets at all? Yes, no, or maybe? I gotta put them in the maybe pile. I lean way towards that no side. So the thing is, yeah, they live a really long time, and they're very, very intelligent. They're about as intelligent as little babies. Yeah, which is pretty impressive when you think about it. But they have a personality like a toddler, also for their entire lives. So they live a pretty long time. And I tell the parents, like, you gotta ask yourself, do you want a flying toddler for the rest of your life? Not for everybody. But I mean, just like babies can be a lot of fun, so can these guys, right? I mean, you can teach them all kinds of fun stuff. And you know, I heard they can talk. Do you think it's true? Sometimes, sort of. Now, it may sound like they're talking, but they don't necessarily know like what they're saying, right? Usually they're just copying sounds and having a good time. That's usually where it ends. But some of them do figure out. I ever heard of Alex the African gray parrot? You bored one day? Okay, look up Alex the African gray parrot. Look up videos of that parrot. You could carry on a conversation with that bird. Ridiculous. Very uncommon though. I probably never see it again. Clap your hands for this little piece. Now they're usually also monogamous, so they tend to mate for life. Usually when we have them like in a zoo or as a pet, sometimes they, even if they're around other birds, a lot of times they'll choose a human to be their mate. And if you like have them as a pet, right, and they choose like somebody in your house, usually anybody else gets too close to that bird, they get very angry. Like, no, I don't want anything to do with you. He thinks I'm his bird.
I was laughing at him.
Ralphie. Oh, here's Ralph.
That's it for the parrot.
Ralph is prone to being everywhere.
That's sweet looking.
Did they literally just bring a turtle?
Like Raphael.
This is perhaps my favorite
That's weird.
of creature in the whole wide world. So these guys are what's called the African spur-legged tortoise. He's also called a sulcata tortoise for his scientific name, Jucolone sulcata. And they are the third largest tortoises in the world. Actually, they have a visual aid. You guys see this little cap from my water bottle here? I haven't known him his whole life, but I have another one at the second farm. And they're about that big when they're born. This little tiny baby. Oh, they don't even look real. They look like little wind-up tortoises. But again, third largest tortoises in the world. When they're done growing, they're actually larger than I am. A couple hundred pounds. couple feet tall, not terribly tall creatures. But these guys, I think, are my favorite animal. They haven't always been, and I think, though they've really grown on me for two reasons. And one is, I just think they have the right idea, you know? A lot of people think they're boring because they walk around and eat and take naps a lot, and then they just wake up and do it all over again. Like warm, sunny days, and a lot of people are like, yeah, well, that's kind of boring, but yeah, they don't seem to know how to live, man. They also have a really cool way of protecting themselves. What is the thing that they do when they're in trouble? They call Batman if there's danger. No, they call Robin.
They don't call Batman or Robin.
What's on his back? You got just
That's
say it.
weird.
Michelle, what's he doing? Jump out and throw it at you. That would be in Super Mario Kart. He hides in the shell. Actually, almost never hear them. Actually, some of these guys are not so good at hiding their shell. Some can't even do it at all, but you hold them up. Pick them up so the people can see. So, yeah, they hide their shell. Now, these guys are pretty good at it, with one exception. They can't pull their legs all the way out. Those front legs especially kind of stick out a little bit. That's why they got all this extra armor on the outside. I wouldn't go that far, unless you want to get some paper towels there, Mr. Andy. There we go. Actually, I have a story about him. Would you like to hear it?
Yes.
All right, so let's see. We've been in business for maybe 10 or 11 years, and he's one of our first-ish animals. Okay. He was about half the size that he is right now when I met him. But we were doing a show. We were doing a show for a birthday party, and actually we're in a really big bar. There's all these folding chairs, kind of like this, right? And there's actually just 2 rows of kids, okay? And somebody in the second row wanted to pet Ralph. Okay, I want to give a nice pat on the back. So my hand would lean to about here, so the person could lean over to pet, and then peed all over his poultry. Now, to give you an idea, he is a desert species, and these guys can hold their pee for a long time. And when they let it go, it is like a waterfall dumps out of them. So this poor kid was probably like maybe 4 years old. This little girl, and she was drenched for like an instant in the middle. So never again. We are very cautious, especially with him, because he will just dump that pee at a moment's notice. But that's my Ralph story. But yeah, you know, the other thing that comes up is whether or not things bite. A lot of people ask me, does the animal bite? Can it bite? Actually, I don't know if I have any of those signs up on these fences, but sometimes I have these signs up and it just says, warning, I bite. And some people get very concerned about those signs, and they ask me, hey, you know, which one are you talking about? And then usually what I do is I look up like this, and I say, the ones with a mouth. And they call the police on me. But I always tell them, if it's got a mouth, it can bite you, right? It doesn't mean that it wants to or it's going to bite you, but really the mouth only has a few functions, right? One of them is biting stuff that's trying to hurt you. And the nice thing about him, though, he is a tortoise. They tend just to like to eat plants, so don't eat a plant, he's probably not going to bite you. But they're also pretty good at hiding in their shell. And usually if they're pretty good at hiding in their shell, biting is not usually something that they're going to voluntarily do to try and protect themselves, because it's just not a good idea. It's also incompatible with hiding there. It's very hard to bite somebody if you're way back inside there. But you guys ever heard of the snapping turtle? Yeah. A little difference. You get too close to them guys, they might get really angry with you. They'll sting. They'll open that mouth and hiss. Bite you when you get close. But it's not that they're mean. So they physically can't hide in their shell at all. That makes a lot of sense to think about it.
Alright, the video is getting too long, so I'm just gonna pause it every time that they talk. Okay? Thank you. Maybe I might slip in some of the important stuff. Thank you. We're going back into the scalies. I think this is a lizard. There it is.
He's a bearded dragon.
That's a lizard.
And they call that bearded dragon.
It's a bearded dragon.
And they actually use it for a threat display. So a lot of lizards will try and scare you away. Once again, these guys, it's kind of a weird way to do it. Like little tiny guys do this thing where they like stick you down, they do these push-ups at you. Are any of you guys afraid of a push-up? And again, I'm kind of afraid to do them because it's tiring, but that's what all those little tiny lizards do. These guys, similar but different, they're going to use their body to try and posture at you, but they're going to keep the back legs low. They take their front legs, kind of stretch them out, they're sticking their head up so they can show you this beard, and then they pump it out really big, turns all black, they will come out. Hiss at you, show that big mouth. That is the universal dragon speak for go away. They do run pretty fast though, so if it comes to it, yeah, they're just going to try and run away. But they do blend in pretty well. These guys are in the deserts of Australia, and if they want to disappear, all they usually got to do is sit real still and get real flat. And then you look at him, he's got the color palette for blending in with the desert, but why does he get flat? The idea is sometimes these guys gotta hide right out in the open, but there's nowhere really to hide themselves. So the one neat little trick though is if you do not cast much of a shadow, it's gonna be a lot harder for animals to spot you, especially like birds up overhead looking for that dark outline which stands out, giving you a so they try to flatten themselves so that they don't have to shadow hardly all. It's much easier
I like
for
him.
them to find this level of this. But if they do happen to see it, you know, it's got these spikes
My
on the
weakness.
sides and the crest of the head here.
Alright, I'll be right back.
Once again, I've only been bitten by a bearded dragon 3 times. The reason I was bit by him is because he was blind and we had to hand feed him, you know, just trying to wedge the food in his mouth until he's like, oh, tried to eat the food. Sometimes he missed, hit me in the thumb a few times. Now these guys are what's called opportunistic omnivores.
I'm gonna film with this hand.
They will eat whatever that thing is. And they have a very strong set of jaws to be able to deal with a lot of different types of food. When they crunch down, I will never forget that for the rest of my life. Such a small lizard.
Alright, and that's it for the dragon. Bro, these guys brought a snake. Guys, look at this. It's so long.
Museum of Science and Industry today.
They literally just brought a snake. What the heck?
If you are frightened, here's your heads up that Andrew is coming down the aisle. Now, she's a very famous type of snake. They're very famous. And they have at least 3 common names, at least 3. One of them you've definitely heard of before. The other 2 you might not have heard of before. So she's called a common boa. You might not have heard of a common boa. Although, I mean, it's called common, you think maybe I should have heard of that. Now, also called red-tailed boa. And you might not have heard of a red-tailed boa
Oh
either.
my gosh.
But have you guys heard of a boa constrictor? Yeah, it's like those 3 common names. Actually, boa constrictor is also their scientific name. It's very easy to remember. But I think they're very famous. I see people leaning away from me. Now, I think they're famous because, you know, they got that word constrictor right there in the name, right? But, you know, there's a lot of snakes that are constrictors. They just happen to have it right there in the name. But a lot of people are afraid of snakes. Is anybody here a little bit afraid even? Just a little bit afraid. It's normal. It's normal. It's very normal. Now, it goes way back though. So, you know, before there were things like antibiotics or whatever, it's a big deal.
We're next to pet it.
Exterior, you know, injury to your body. Think about cuts and scrapes.
Oh my gosh. This is surprising.
When you cut yourself on a stick or a sharp rock or whatever, you know, your skin's on your first line of defense against the infection. There's a hole in it. Germs could conceivably get in there and make you sick and maybe kill you way back when. Now, similarly, you get bit by a non-venomous snake, you have all these puncture wounds, which again could potentially be infected and kill you. So, the fear of snakes has been passed on largely by mistake ever since the beginning of humanity. Yeah, we're only apparently afraid of 2 things. We're babies. Naturally, we're only afraid of falling in loud noises. That's it. Everything else we learn by observation.
Sorry, I left it recording on my lap.
Any group of you even ask this one question about snakes. Everybody gets it right every single time. Are you ready? Just say yes.
Yes.
Alright.
Look at that.
What does a snake say? Very see when we're made all the sounds, right? But you always learn what the sounds mean. Now, when snake says hiss, we know pretty well what it is. Just hey, I'm over here.
Let's
Go away.
go.
They're trying to tell you what. And they're
called
cousins of an animal you
koala.
have definitely seen before.
It's
You guys
called.
ever seen the washing
It's
bear?
called. I think a koala.
Yeah. No? You
Or
have seen the washing. You guys ever
koala.
seen the raccoon is also called the washing bear, you guys. It's one of their very uncommon common names. But yeah, these should go a long time. Here we go.
Not a dog.
This is why I have holes in all my clothes. Now, for a long time, they thought this whole group of animals was like a subgroup of bears. So, a lot of them have the word bear in one of their common names. But yeah, they're actually cousin of the raccoon. I mean, they don't look too much like it. I think a little little bit in the face, more so in the tail. I don't know if you guys can see. They have faint light brown rings on their tail. They're really faint on this species, especially he's getting older now. They seem to have faded considerably. However, a lot of them have rings. There's even one they just named the ringtail. They got lazy, I guess, but they are very much like raccoons in a great many ways. Oh wow, he's dripping with pee. That's great. That's wonderful. Wonderful. Don't worry, we'll leave with all our poop in it. But yeah, they're kind of strange, right? I mean, they got this long nose, this long tail, little teddy bear ears. Now they'll tell you to go away though, just like a raccoon will. It all just happens very quickly, right? So you get too close, you don't take time, you make they make a sound.
I think it likes his
It sounds
nose.
like a bird yelling at you. Like, it sounds like a chirp, 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 really loud. But if you get really close, you got these great claws on them, which again, I mean, you saw them climbing up the body. Great for climbing, great for digging. So great for slashing. Now the worst part though is getting bit by one. So when they bite to protect themselves, it is a little bit different. So they don't just like bite and let go. Like usually if a snake is biting just to get you to leave them alone, we might refer to them as a striker because when you get bit and you're like, okay, you leave them alone. Others kind of bite and don't want to let go. Some of them kind of latch on and chew really hard. These guys though we call a frenzy biter. So instead of any of that business, it's really fast. So like blinking you a bit so many times. But yeah, and as such we tend not to let people touch them for safety because who wants to deal with it? But again, they'll usually keep their distance from you as long as you keep away from them. Now you're not likely to see them in the United States unless you're really way far south. You'll find these guys in Mexico, Central America, and South America, and very occasionally you might see them on the southernmost parts of the United States. I know it's a brand new target and you have to tear holes in it. Is that right? Come here. Come here. Now, the weirdest thing about them though is they're not nocturnal. So these guys are up all day and sleep all night. Man, just like you and me. So if you have to go to Costa Rica,
I think I've shown enough of this
You're
creature.
actually pretty likely to see them. Alright, you guys want to see his teeth before I put him away? And there we go. Oh, he's like a vampire. But guys, just make sure you don't get too close. Make sure you don't get too close. Alright, clap your hands for this thing.
Alright.
His name is Gandalf, and
They're
is a
Nandos.
type of rabbit. He's called
They're
a
rabbits.
Jersey
They're
woolly
types
rabbit.
of rabbits.
And they are really just like any other rabbit, except they have a lot of hair. Now, similarly, the hairless guinea pig is just like any other guinea pig, except they have
Oh, look at
usually,
this thing.
very little hair. I've never seen a hairless guinea pig that actually has no hair. There you go. Funny feeling, right? There you go.
Like those Macy's.
Now, a lot of people think these guys are pretty closely related. Actually, they're not particularly close cousins. But this little gal here, Velma, she is a rodent. She's a rodent. Now, a lot of times, all you gotta do is just say the word rodent, people get like, do you hear rodent? People like rats. Do you want a picture? Want to get this? Nice. There we go. You hear rodent, and people are like, oh my god, just be like rats. Mice. The poop. It's not bad to be a rodent. Actually, a lot of our favorite animals are rodents. You may have loved a hamster before, or a guinea pig, or a gerbil. So love rodents, guys. Now, all it really means to be a rodent, though, is you have these fancy front teeth. Now, actually, I'll show you guys too. She'll cooperate with me. You're looking at a little mouth there. Little miniature teeth there.
That's cute.
And it really sounds like a tiny little bit to alert everybody. There's something going on. It's cool. So, what they're gonna do? They're gonna take those little back feet. Just real quick. Lift up on the ground. That's it. Lift up on the ground. It is very.
Alright guys, that is it for the animal show. Make sure you like and subscribe. Alright, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
I poked my head in there.
See ya.